I've always been one to trust my instincts. But this time I didn't, and I regretted it. It was a Thursday night when Emily casually mentioned the office party. There was no invitation, no detailed conversation. She simply said, "I'll be heading to the office event on Friday. You don't have to come, but it'd be nice if you did. It's not a big deal." Her words were light, dismissive almost, and that should have been the first red flag. Now, here's the thing. Emily wasn't the type to dismiss things she cared about. She had a way of inviting people into her world, especially when it came to her work. But there was a distance in her tone, an unfamiliar coolness. Maybe I was reading too much into it. Maybe I had been too used to her enthusiasm at these gatherings in the past. But there was a part of me that found the way she said it odd, like she was already prepared for my refusal. But I said yes anyway. After all, it was just a party. I wasn't going to let my weird feelings stop me from going, even if I couldn't fully explain why something felt off. The next evening, I found myself standing in front of the venue, staring up at the glass building that loomed before me. It wasn't particularly upscale, but it was the kind of place that gave off an air of casual elegance. Exactly the kind of venue I had expected for one of Emily's work events. I hesitated. It wasn't like me to second-guess going anywhere. But tonight, there was a gnawing sensation in the pit of my stomach. As we walked inside, I scanned the room. I didn't know a single person here except for Emily, which made it feel even more uncomfortable. She, however, moved like she owned the place, greeting people left and right with familiarity that felt almost foreign to me. I made my way to the bar, nursing a drink to ease the unease I had carried with me since we arrived. Emily disappeared into the crowd of people, chatting, laughing, her face lighting up in a way that reminded me of how I had always admired her. But as I watched her, something wasn't right. I couldn't place it, but I noticed she was avoiding eye contact with me more than usual. I shook it off. Maybe I was just overthinking it. But then the unexpected happened. A man I didn't recognize approached me. He was tall, dressed in an impeccable suit, with a confident smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. He introduced himself as James, but his name didn't matter. It was the look in his eyes that I couldn't shake. "Emily's husband, right?" he asked, with an almost too friendly tone. I nodded, unsure of how to respond. Something about his gaze sent a jolt of discomfort through me. It wasn't like he was trying to be rude, quite the opposite, but it was the intensity in his eyes. He wasn't looking at me like someone who had just met a stranger. No, this was something else. "You're lucky to have her," he continued, his smile widening ever so slightly, but it didn't feel like a compliment. There was an edge to his words that felt like a subtle jab. It wasn't mean, not exactly, but it was loaded. I didn't know what to make of it, so I forced a smile. "Yeah, I'm a lucky guy." I took a sip from my drink, trying to shake off the unease his presence had brought. He nodded, his gaze lingering a little too long before he casually wandered off into the crowd. My mind raced. What just happened? I looked over at Emily. She was standing with a group of coworkers, laughing. But there was something strange about the way she was interacting with them. Something different. She didn't seem to be herself. There was an unspoken energy between her and a few people, but one person in particular stood out. James. They were standing a little too close. I didn't want to make assumptions. I didn't want to be the jealous husband, but something about the way they exchanged glances sent a chill down my spine. I told myself I was imagining things. But the more I watched them, the more I realized that there was something between them that wasn't just friendly. There was chemistry, an unspoken connection that, despite my attempts to rationalize it, I couldn't ignore. As the evening wore on, I found myself drifting further into the shadows. I stayed away from the group, observing from a distance. Emily didn't seem to notice. She was too caught up in the laughter, the stories, the easy conversations. But I couldn't stop watching her. Every time I caught her eye, she would quickly look away, like she was hiding something. It wasn't like her. She had always been so open, so engaged with me at these events. But tonight, she seemed distant. Every now and then, I caught her talking to James again, whispering something in his ear, her smile just a little too bright. And then came the moment that would haunt me. Emily walked over to where I was standing alone, but something in her eyes made my heart drop. She didn't smile the way she normally did when she came over to check on me. Instead, she gave me a polite smile, almost robotic. She didn't ask how I was doing. She didn't make any effort to engage with me. "I think I'm going to head out soon," she said, her voice distant, almost rehearsed. "I'll meet you by the door." I nodded, but as she walked away, I felt a cold wave of uncertainty wash over me. Something had changed. I didn't know what it was, but I felt it deep in my gut. The knot in my stomach tightened, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the night was far from over. As I walked to the door to meet her, I glanced back over my shoulder one last time. James was standing at the bar, staring at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Was it pity, amusement, or something else entirely? But then, as Emily joined me, I didn't ask her a single question. I couldn't, because I already knew something had shifted. There was something between them, a quiet understanding, a secret glance that I couldn't unsee. And that was just the beginning. As Emily and I walked back to the car, the quiet between us was almost suffocating. I didn't want to say anything too soon. I didn't want to be the over-analytical husband who always saw things that weren't there. But something in the air felt different, like a tension I couldn't put my finger on. I kept replaying the evening in my head. James, that strange, lingering look he had given me, the way Emily had been so distant. It was like I was watching a different version of her. The Emily I knew would have been playful, engaging, asking me how I was doing, trying to pull me into conversations with her coworkers. But tonight, she had been almost absent, like she was there, but not really there. And the way she kept looking at James when she thought I wasn't watching, that didn't sit right with me either. But as we reached the car, Emily finally broke the silence. "I'm sorry," she said quietly, her voice almost apologetic. "I should have stayed with you more. I know you don't know anyone at those things, and it must have been boring." She paused, giving me a quick glance, then quickly looked away. "I just got caught up in the conversations, you know." I nodded, but the knot in my stomach tightened even more. That wasn't the Emily I knew. She wasn't one to apologize for having a good time, especially when it came to work events. In fact, she usually insisted I have fun too. But there was something about her tone that didn't match her words. It felt rehearsed, like she was trying to sell me an excuse that she wasn't quite convinced of herself. We got in the car, and she started driving, her focus on the road. The silence between us seemed to grow heavier with every passing minute. I thought about bringing up what had happened, but I held back. I couldn't shake the feeling that if I asked her about James, about her distance, she'd shut me out completely. So I stayed quiet, my mind racing with questions I wasn't sure I wanted answers to. We got home, and as she parked the car, I caught a glimpse of her in the rearview mirror. There was something in her eyes, something fleeting, but it made my heart race. It was like she was nervous about something. I couldn't pinpoint what it was, but it wasn't the typical, "I just got home from a party" tiredness. It was something else, something I wasn't prepared for. As we walked inside, Emily immediately started taking off her shoes and jacket, settling into the living room. "I'll just be a minute," she said, her voice light, but with an edge I couldn't ignore. "I'm going to grab a shower." I nodded, trying to play it cool, but my mind was spiraling. I walked into the kitchen and made myself a drink, trying to calm the anxiety that had built up in my chest. The evening's events were running through my head in a loop, and every time I thought I had a handle on my feelings, something new would pop up to make me doubt myself. Then, without thinking, I grabbed my phone and opened the messages from my friends. I didn't want to sound pathetic, but I needed someone to talk to, someone who would give me a straight answer. I quickly typed out a message to my best friend, Ryan, asking if he had ever felt this way about his wife's work events. Was it normal to feel like a third wheel, or was there something more to it? I didn't expect an immediate response, but Ryan's text came through almost instantly. "Dude, you've got to trust your gut. Something's off, huh?" His message hit me like a jolt of electricity. It was like he had read my mind. I had tried to push the thoughts aside, but now that Ryan had said it, I couldn't ignore the fact that something didn't feel right. And if I was being honest with myself, I knew that deep down, I had felt that something for a while. There had always been small moments, tiny things that I'd brushed off. But tonight, it all clicked. Tonight, I couldn't pretend anymore. I sat down, the weight of the realization sinking in. Was Emily hiding something from me? Or had I just missed the signs? As I sat there, my thoughts racing, I heard the sound of water running from the bathroom. Emily was showering. The house was quiet, and I had nothing but my thoughts and my growing sense of unease to keep me company. A few minutes passed, and I thought about checking on her, but I hesitated. Why? Because I already knew something was off, and I didn't know if I was ready to face it. So instead, I just sat there, lost in my mind, wondering what had really happened tonight. The small, almost unnoticeable moments between Emily and James kept replaying in my head. Was I being paranoid, or had I witnessed something I shouldn't have? Finally, Emily emerged from the bathroom, her hair damp and loose around her shoulders. She smiled, as if nothing had happened, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. It was the same smile she had given me earlier, polite, distant, like we were two strangers sharing a space rather than a married couple. "I'm going to bed," she said softly, brushing past me without stopping. She didn't even kiss me goodnight. And just like that, the door to our bedroom closed, and I was left standing there in the dark, wondering what had just happened. The knot in my stomach had only tightened, and I knew, deep down, that the events of the night were far from over. Something was changing, and I was about to find out just how deep this rabbit hole went. The next few days were a blur. Emily's behavior had been off ever since the party, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was quietly shifting between us. I tried to brush it off. I really did. But there were small signs that kept tugging at my mind, each one a thread leading me further down a path I didn't want to explore. It was Thursday night when I finally couldn't take it anymore. Emily was sitting at the kitchen table, her laptop open in front of her, tapping away at something I couldn't see. It wasn't unusual for her to work late from home, especially with the busy projects she managed. But tonight, she was quieter than usual, almost distant. Every time I looked at her, I found myself searching for answers, looking for something in her eyes that could explain why everything felt wrong. I said, trying to sound casual, but my voice came out a little too sharp. She glanced up from her laptop, blinking as if she hadn't been paying attention. "Yeah," she replied, her voice light, but there was something off in the way she said it. "Are you okay? You've been a little distant lately," I asked, my words hanging in the air between us. I hadn't meant to sound accusatory, but that's exactly how it came out. For a moment, she didn't respond. Instead, she closed her laptop and leaned back in her chair, folding her arms across her chest. "I'm just tired, that's all. You know how it is with work," she said, offering me a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I wanted to push further. I wanted to demand answers, to ask about her interactions with James at the party, the strange way she had acted since then. But something held me back. I couldn't tell if it was fear or just the overwhelming realization that I didn't want to confront whatever it was that had changed. Instead, I simply nodded. "Okay, just let me know if you need anything, all right?" I stood up to leave the room, but as I turned to walk away, I caught a glimpse of her expression. Her eyes were far away, distant, as if she wasn't really seeing me. As the night wore on, I found myself growing more and more restless. Emily went to bed early, and I stayed up, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. The more I thought about it, the more questions I had. What was going on between her and James? Was I just overthinking things, or was there something real to my suspicions? My heart ached at the thought, and I couldn't help but replay the moments from the party in my head. The way James had looked at her, the way she had smiled at him, the way her body language had shifted when he was around. I needed to talk to someone. I needed answers. I grabbed my phone and sent a text to Ryan. "Hey man, I need your advice. Something's off with Emily, and I don't know what to think. Is it normal for her to act this way after an office party?" Ryan's response came almost instantly. "What do you mean by off? You feeling paranoid, or is there something more?" I paused before typing my reply. The truth was, I wasn't sure if I was being paranoid. I wanted to trust my gut, but I didn't know if I was just overreacting. Still, there was a part of me that needed to know, needed to figure out what had changed. She's been distant. She's acting like she's hiding something. At the party, it felt like there was something between her and one of her coworkers, James. I'm not sure if I'm just being insecure, but I don't know. Ryan's next text was longer, and the words hit me harder than I expected. "Look, man, trust your instincts. If something feels off, it usually is. You know how Emily is. She's never been the type to hide things. If she's pulling away, there's a reason. But don't jump to conclusions until you talk to her. It might not be as bad as you think, but if there's something going on, you'll know." I stared at the message, my mind reeling. What if Ryan was right? What if I was just being paranoid? But what if I wasn't? What if I was missing something right in front of me? The next morning, I woke up to an eerie stillness in the house. Emily had already left for work, her coffee mug sitting empty on the kitchen counter, her bag gone. She hadn't even left me a note. Not that she usually did, but today it felt different. I couldn't help but feel like she was avoiding me, like she was purposefully creating space between us. I tried to go about my day as usual, but the knot in my stomach refused to loosen. I found myself scrolling through my phone, checking my messages, refreshing the news. I couldn't focus on anything. My thoughts kept returning to her, the way she had looked at me with that polite, distant smile, the way her eyes had flickered when I asked if something was wrong. It was as if she was hiding a secret from me, a secret she didn't want me to uncover. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized I couldn't shake the feeling that I was already too far down this rabbit hole. I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't live with this uncertainty. But how would I even begin? What if she denied everything? What if I was wrong, and all this was just my imagination running wild? As the day passed, I decided I'd wait until she came home, hoping she would be in a better mood, maybe more willing to talk. I could already feel the pressure building. I had to know the truth. And tonight, whether she was ready to talk or not, I was going to get the answers I needed. That evening, as the clock ticked towards 7 p.m., I found myself pacing around the house. I had tried to distract myself earlier, reading, scrolling through social media, even watching a few episodes of a show I'd been meaning to catch up on, but nothing held my attention. The feeling of unease gnawed at me. I needed to confront Emily. I couldn't keep letting my mind wander down dark paths without knowing the truth. When she finally walked through the door, I was sitting on the couch, staring blankly at the TV. She was carrying her usual bag, her heels clicking softly against the floor. She didn't look any different, but I could tell something was off. Her movements were more rushed than usual, like she was trying to get through the evening as quickly as possible. She looked at me with a smile that was almost too bright, her eyes avoiding mine as she set down her things. "Hey," she said, her voice a little too cheerful. "How was your day?" I didn't respond immediately. I just watched her, trying to read her expression, her body language. Something was different. She wasn't herself. "Emily," I said quietly, my voice thick with hesitation. She paused, halfway through taking off her jacket, and then turned to face me. "What's wrong?" she asked, her eyebrows furrowing slightly, like she had no idea what I was about to say. But I could see it in her eyes. She knew. "I don't know," I replied, feeling a knot tightening in my chest. "But you've been distant lately. Ever since the party, I've noticed." "I don't know. It's like something's changed between us. And I can't help but feel like I'm being kept in the dark." "What's going on, Emily?" Her eyes flickered, just for a second, and I saw a flash of something. Fear? Guilt? Maybe it was my imagination, but it was there. "You're overthinking things," she said, her voice coming out a little too quickly. "Nothing's wrong. I've just been busy with work, that's all." She smiled again, but it wasn't the usual warmth I was used to. It felt rehearsed, like she was trying too hard to convince me. I wasn't buying it. "I don't think I am overthinking it," I said, my voice hardening. "I've seen the way you've been acting, the way you were with James at the party. Don't try to deny it. It wasn't just a friendly conversation. There was something there, and I need to know what it is." Emily's face went pale. She took a step back, her hand instinctively reaching for her necklace, twisting it nervously between her fingers. I knew that gesture well. It was something she did when she was avoiding the truth. "James is just a coworker," she replied quickly, too quickly. "There's nothing going on, I promise." But I wasn't convinced. The way she was acting only confirmed my suspicions. I couldn't let this go. Not now, not after everything I'd seen. "Don't lie to me," I said, my voice shaking with a mix of frustration and hurt. "I saw the way you two were standing close, laughing like you shared some private joke." "I'm not stupid, Emily. I saw the way he looked at you, and I saw the way you looked at him. That's not how you act with someone you're just friends with." For a long moment, there was silence between us. Emily's eyes were locked on the floor, and I could see the tension in her shoulders. She was tense, cornered. Finally, she exhaled a long breath and sat down on the couch beside me, her hands resting in her lap. "It's not what you think," she said quietly, her voice almost a whisper. I looked at her, waiting for her to explain. The silence between us felt unbearable, but I didn't say a word. I needed to hear the truth, no matter how painful it might be. "James. He's been more than a coworker for a while now," she finally admitted, her eyes still focused on her hands. "But it's not like you think. I never wanted to hurt you. I don't know. Everything with him just started to feel different." My heart sank. My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to shout, to scream at her for what she was saying, but I couldn't. I was paralyzed by the words that had just left her mouth. What do you mean, different? Emily, are you telling me that you... I couldn't finish the sentence. I couldn't bring myself to say it out loud. But Emily cut me off. I never meant for it to get this far. I didn't plan for it. But things with James, they've just gotten complicated. I didn't know how to tell you, and I didn't want to hurt you. I swear, I didn't want it to happen. I sat there, stunned. My thoughts were a blur, swirling in a mess of anger, confusion, and disbelief. I had trusted her. I had believed in our relationship, in the life we had built together. And now she was telling me that she had been hiding something from me for who knows how long. I don't know what to say. I managed to choke out, the words barely making it past my lips. I never thought this would happen. I thought we were happy. Emily's eyes welled up with tears. She reached out to touch my hand, but I pulled away. I couldn't let her comfort me. Not after everything she had just admitted. I never wanted to hurt you, she repeated, her voice breaking. I swear I didn't. But I got caught up in it, and now I don't know how to fix it. I stood up, my heart racing in my chest. I couldn't look at her anymore. The betrayal stung so deeply that I felt like I was suffocating. You need to figure this out, Emily, I said, my voice cold. I need space. I need to think. Without waiting for her response, I turned and walked out of the room. I couldn't stay there with her. I couldn't pretend like everything was okay. My mind was spinning. I had been betrayed by the one person I trusted more than anyone else. As I stepped outside into the cool night air, I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, unsure of which way to go. Everything I had known, everything I had believed in, was now shattered, and I had no idea how to pick up the pieces. The days after that conversation felt like a heavy fog hanging over me, each step forward like wading through thick, murky water. Emily had tried to apologize, tried to explain herself, but the words didn't seem to reach me. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the way she had hidden it from me, the way she had looked me in the eye for so long and pretended everything was fine. She had been keeping secrets, building something with someone else, and I was the last to know. I stayed at a friend's house for a few nights to clear my head. Ryan offered me a place to crash, and at first, I had declined. I wasn't sure I wanted to talk about it. But after the second night, I found myself sitting in his living room, my hands shaking as I recounted everything that had happened since that party. You know, man, I've been where you are, Ryan said, leaning back on his couch, looking at me with those concerned eyes. You can't let her manipulate the situation. She's the one who messed up, not you. His words were blunt, and they stung, but in some strange way, I needed to hear them. I needed someone to tell me that I wasn't crazy for feeling the way I did. I had spent the past few days questioning everything. Questioning myself, questioning Emily, and even questioning the life we had built together. I don't even know what to think anymore. I confessed, my voice hoarse. I thought I knew her, Ryan. I thought I understood her. But now, I don't even know who she is anymore. Ryan didn't respond immediately. Instead, he just sat there, rubbing his jaw, as if he were considering everything carefully. Look, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I know one thing for sure. You can't keep living like this. You have to decide whether you want to forgive her and try to move on, or if it's time to walk away. And that's something only you can figure out. His words hit me harder than I expected. I had been so caught up in the emotions of it all, in the hurt and the anger, that I hadn't really thought about the future. Could I forgive Emily? Could I live with this? Or had this betrayal broken something in me that couldn't be fixed? I spent the next few days in a haze. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, answers, peace, or maybe just a sign that I could move forward. But there was no sign. Emily had tried calling, tried texting, but I had ignored everything. I wasn't ready to face her yet. Then, 2 days later, she showed up at Ryan's place. I was sitting on the couch, my head in my hands, trying to wrap my mind around the whirlwind of everything that had happened, when I heard a knock at the door. I didn't move at first, thinking it was Ryan coming back. But then I heard her voice, the soft, familiar voice I hadn't heard in days. Can we talk? I felt my heart stop in my chest. For a moment, I couldn't move, couldn't even breathe. This was it. This was the moment that would either bring closure or push everything further into the abyss. Ryan was already standing by the door, and he gave me a quick, sympathetic look before stepping back. I'll leave you two alone, he said, quietly closing the door behind him. I didn't know what to say. I just stood there, staring at her. Emily was dressed in a simple white blouse and jeans, her hair pulled back into a messy ponytail. She looked like the Emily I knew, but there was something different in her eyes. They were tired, full of regret, and something else, something I couldn't place. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice shaky. "I've been horrible to you. I've hurt you, and I hate myself for it. But I need you to understand. James never meant anything to me. It was a mistake, and I don't even know why it happened. But I love you, I swear I do. Please, just let me explain." I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I wanted to hear her explanation. I didn't know if I could even trust her anymore. But the hurt in her voice was undeniable, and for a split second, I found myself wanting to reach out, to believe her, to go back to the way things were before everything had exploded. But I couldn't. "I don't know if I can ever believe you again," I said quietly, my words feeling heavier than I intended. "I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way after what you did." Her face fell, and I saw the tears that she had been holding back. "I understand," she whispered, wiping her eyes. "But I need you to know, it wasn't about you. It wasn't ever about you. I was the one who messed up, and I've been miserable ever since." I shook my head, the frustration bubbling up inside of me. "If you loved me, Emily, you wouldn't have done this. You wouldn't have lied to me, wouldn't have kept it from me. How do you expect me to believe that you've been miserable? I've been the one who's been lied to. I've been the one left in the dark." "I didn't want to hurt you," she cried, her voice trembling. "I didn't know how to tell you. I never thought it would go this far. I swear it was a mistake. Please, don't let this ruin everything we've built." I stood there, frozen, staring at her. For the first time in days, I didn't feel the anger I had been carrying. Instead, there was just an overwhelming sense of sadness. Everything we had shared, all the moments that had felt so real, now seemed like lies. I couldn't tell if this was salvageable or if everything was beyond repair. "I need time, Emily," I finally said, my voice softer than I expected. "I can't make any decisions right now. I need to think." She nodded, her face a mixture of relief and guilt. "I understand. I'll give you as much time as you need. Just know that I love you, and I'm sorry for everything." With that, she turned and walked out, leaving me standing there alone. And for the first time in days, I felt a sense of clarity, or maybe it was just numbness. Whatever it was, I knew that my life, our life, had changed forever. What I did next would determine everything. The following days felt like a blur. My life, once familiar and steady, was now a fractured mess of emotions and unanswered questions. Emily and I had barely spoken since that night at Ryan's. She had left me the space I had asked for, but the silence was suffocating. It wasn't just the fact that we were living in different worlds. It was the fact that everything had changed. Our conversations had become nothing more than routine exchanges, like strangers cohabiting a space, avoiding confrontation, but with the weight of an unspeakable truth between us. I couldn't stop thinking about the party. I kept replaying the events in my head, wondering where I had gone wrong, wondering how long Emily had been hiding the truth from me. It wasn't just about her and James. It was the realization that I hadn't known her as well as I thought I did. She had slipped away from me, and I hadn't even noticed. On Friday afternoon, when I came back from running errands, I found a note on the kitchen counter. It was from Emily. It wasn't long, but the words cut deeper than I expected. "I've made mistakes. I don't expect forgiveness right away, but I hope we can talk when you're ready. I love you." I didn't know how to feel. On one hand, I appreciated the gesture. She had tried to reach out, to show she cared. But on the other hand, I couldn't ignore the fact that she had been lying to me. She had been keeping secrets, and now she wanted me to just forgive her and move on. I wasn't sure I was ready for that. In fact, I wasn't sure I ever would be. As the night approached, I made a decision. I needed answers. I couldn't go on like this, trapped in this limbo between love and betrayal. I had to confront her again, but this time, it wasn't about asking for explanations. It was about laying it all out, about asking the hard questions, demanding honesty, and finding out if there was any way forward or if everything between us had been shattered beyond repair. I called Emily's phone. It rang twice before she picked up. "Hey." Her voice sounded strained, but there was a relief in it too. "I'm glad you called. I've been waiting for you to reach out." "I think we need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I need you to come over tonight. Now." There was a pause on the other end, a hesitation that felt like the weight of everything she had been holding back. Then, finally, she responded, "Okay, I'll be there in 20 minutes." I hung up the phone, feeling a sense of finality settle over me. This wasn't just a conversation. It was a reckoning. When Emily arrived, she was standing on my doorstep, her expression unreadable. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept in days. There was no makeup, no pretense. Just the raw version of herself, vulnerable, exposed. She looked at me for a moment, like she was waiting for me to say something. But I didn't. I just stepped aside, letting her walk in. We didn't sit down immediately. I didn't know if I could be in the same space with her and pretend everything was fine. So I stood by the window, looking out at the street below. It was dark, the only light coming from the street lamps outside. Emily stood behind me, her footsteps light but hesitant. "I've been thinking a lot about everything," I began, my voice barely above a whisper. "And the truth is, I don't know what to think anymore." "Tell me what you're feeling," she said softly. "I want to understand. I know I've messed up, but I need you to know that I never wanted to hurt you. Please, just let me explain." I turned around and faced her, the air between us heavy with unresolved tension. "You've had plenty of chances to explain, Emily. But every time I asked, you just shut me out. You kept telling me everything was fine, like I was crazy for even questioning it. And now you want me to believe you?" She stepped closer, her hands outstretched, palms up in a gesture of desperation. "I never meant to keep anything from you. I didn't want you to find out this way. But I made a mistake, one that I can't take back. And it was all my fault. Please, just hear me out. Please let me explain." I shook my head, frustration and pain building in my chest. "Explain what, Emily? How you let this go on for so long? How you allowed someone else into our life, into our marriage, and pretended it didn't matter? How long did you think you could get away with it?" Her eyes welled with tears, and she took a step back, visibly shaken. "I don't know how it happened. It wasn't planned. I didn't set out to hurt you. But after the party, things just changed. I felt like I was being suffocated by everything, and he listened. He made me feel seen, like I wasn't just your wife, like I had a voice again. It was never about him. It was about me and what I was feeling at the time." Her words hit me harder than I expected. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the fact that, for the first time, I understood the pain that had been building inside her. She wasn't just doing this to hurt me. She was doing it because she was lost in herself. It wasn't an excuse, but it was a truth I hadn't fully considered. "I didn't want to lose you," she continued, her voice breaking. "But I was too scared to face the truth. I didn't know how to talk to you anymore. And now, I realize that I've lost everything." I stood there in silence, processing what she had just said. Part of me wanted to scream, to tell her how much she had hurt me, to demand answers for everything she had kept hidden. But another part of me, a part one wasn't proud of, wanted to forgive her, to hold on to the life we had before all of this came crashing down. But could I? Could I really forgive her? Could I forget the betrayal, the lies, the secrets she had kept from me? I looked at her one last time, and for the first time in days, I saw her, the real Emily, vulnerable and broken, asking for a second chance. But I wasn't sure I could give it to her. Not yet. "I don't know if I can do this," I whispered, the words coming out with more pain than I had ever imagined. "I don't know if I can trust you again." The next few hours felt like a lifetime. Emily didn't say anything after I told her I didn't know if I could trust her again. She just stood there, her eyes wide with disbelief, as if the words I'd just spoken were a final blow. There was no anger in my voice, no accusations, just an empty, raw exhaustion that seemed to drain all the life out of the room. For what felt like an eternity, we stood there in silence, both of us trapped in a moment where words no longer seemed to matter. I could see the tears in her eyes, but they didn't move me like they once would have. I had seen this side of her before, when she was sorry, when she knew she had hurt me, when she wanted to fix things. But this time, it was different. This time, it wasn't enough. "I know you're angry," she finally said, her voice barely a whisper. "And I don't blame you. But please, give me a chance to prove that I can make it right. I don't want to lose you. I can't lose you." Her words hit me like a wave. But the more she spoke, the less I felt. It wasn't that I didn't care anymore. It was that I didn't know how to care. Not when she had shattered the foundation of everything I thought I knew about our relationship. "I'm not sure you can fix this," I muttered, my voice sounding hollow even to my own ears. You say you didn't want to hurt me, but you did. You hurt me in ways I can't even begin to explain. And now I'm standing here, asking myself if there's anything left for us. Emily stepped forward, her hand reaching out toward me, but I stepped back instinctively, the distance between us feeling both necessary and suffocating. She pulled her hand back, looking like she had been struck. I didn't want it to go this far, she said, her voice trembling. I never thought I'd be standing here, begging for forgiveness. But I'm doing it because I love you. And I need you to know that this wasn't about you. This wasn't about our marriage. This was about me, about my mistakes. And I can't undo them. But I swear I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make it right if you'll give me that chance. I stood there, frozen. The woman I had married was right in front of me, but she was a stranger now. Her words sounded like everything I had ever wanted to hear, but the pain and betrayal I felt was too strong to ignore. I wish I could believe you, I said, finally breaking the silence. But right now, I just don't know how. How do you expect me to just move past this? How do I know that you're telling me the truth? That you won't go back to him? That this won't happen again? Her face crumpled as the tears began to fall, but I couldn't bring myself to comfort her. I couldn't hold her the way I once did. Not when the trust had been destroyed in such a way. She was the one who had broken us, not me. I can't erase what I've done, she said, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. But I need you to know that I want to rebuild this. I want to try. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness right now, but I'm asking you for a chance. Not to fix everything in a day, but to start again. To find a way forward, together. I could feel the weight of her words pressing down on me, but I couldn't give in to them. Not yet. Not when every part of me screamed that it would never be the same again. She had broken something in me that couldn't be repaired with promises or apologies. Emily, I said, my voice steady but cold. I need time. I can't just snap back into what we had. I need to figure this out. I need to know if I even want to. The silence that followed was deafening. I could feel the space between us growing, not just physically but emotionally as well. The woman I had loved, the woman who was my partner, was standing there, broken and pleading for me to come back to her. But all I felt was numb. I understand, she said quietly, her voice heavy with resignation. I'll give you all the time you need. But please know that I am here. I won't go anywhere. And I will fight for us, for you. I didn't respond. Instead, I turned away from her and walked to the door. My hands shook as I opened it, the cold air hitting my face like a slap. Good night, Emily, I said, my voice hoarse. It wasn't meant to be cruel, but it came out that way. There was nothing left to say. Not yet. I didn't look back as I closed the door behind her. My heart ached, but the anger and betrayal that I felt pushed the ache aside. For the rest of the evening, I sat in silence. I didn't know what to do with myself. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, her tears, her pleading eyes. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that no matter how hard she tried, I couldn't forget what she had done. The next morning, I woke up to an empty house. Emily had left early for work, and there was no note, no text, no attempt to reach out again. It was as if everything had suddenly gone back to normal, but it hadn't. I was still stuck in this limbo, caught between the man I was and the man I had to become to survive this. For the first time, I allowed myself to admit something I had been avoiding. I didn't know what came next. I didn't know if I wanted to fix this, or if the damage was too deep. Emily's love, her apologies, all the things she said she would do to make it right, they weren't enough to erase the feeling of betrayal that lingered in my chest. And as I stared out the window, the world outside seemed distant and unreachable, just like the future I wasn't sure I could face. The next few days passed in a haze of uncertainty and reflection. Emily and I didn't talk much after that night. I kept my distance, trying to sort through the overwhelming emotions that kept clouding my judgment. I couldn't deny that there was a part of me that still loved her, a part of me that wanted to forgive her and move forward. But the pain was real. The betrayal was real. And I wasn't sure I could ever move past that. But life, as it often does, had a way of pushing you to face what you fear the most. It was a Sunday morning, and I was sitting on the couch, my mind still tangled in knots, when my phone rang. It was Emily. I hesitated for a moment before answering. Hello. Hey, she said, her voice soft, almost fragile. I don't want to make this harder for you, but I need to talk. Can we meet? I know I've hurt you, but I want to be honest with you, for real this time. I felt a tightness in my chest, but I agreed. We met at a small cafe we used to go to on lazy Saturday mornings, before all of this happened. When I arrived, she was already sitting at a table by the window, her hands nervously fidgeting with her coffee cup. She looked different, more grounded, more open, like the weight of the past week had forced her to confront the person she had been and the person she wanted to become. I sat down across from her, unsure of what to say, but she started first, as if reading my thoughts. I know I've hurt you. I know I've been selfish, but I've been doing a lot of thinking about who I am, who I was before all of this, and what I want now. And the truth is, I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose what we had. I can't promise I won't make mistakes, but I can promise I'll spend every day proving to you that I'm willing to fight for us, for you. Her words were simple, but they cut through the layers of doubt and fear that had been building inside me. For the first time in days, I felt a shift in the air, a sense of hope, even if it was small. I can't just forget everything, I said, my voice thick with emotion. What you did, it shattered me. I'm still broken from it. But I think I want to try. I don't know if I'm ready yet, but I want to try. Emily's eyes lit up with a mixture of relief and gratitude, but she didn't rush to embrace me. She understood. It wasn't about rushing forward or pretending that everything was fine. It was about rebuilding trust, step by step. I'll give you all the time you need, she said softly. I know I don't deserve it, but I'll be here. And when you're ready, we'll take it slow. I'll prove to you every day that I'm worth fighting for. In that moment, I realized something I had been avoiding. The pain would never fully disappear. It would always be there, a scar that marked our past. But I also realized that healing wasn't about erasing the past. It was about moving forward, together, one step at a time. We spent the next few months rebuilding, not just our relationship, but ourselves. We communicated more than we ever had, faced our flaws and insecurities, and took responsibility for the hurt we had caused each other. There were moments of doubt, moments when the past threatened to drag us back, but we learned to navigate those moments together. Over time, Emily earned back my trust, not through grand gestures, but through small, consistent actions that showed me she was truly sorry and committed to making things right. She showed me her vulnerability, and in turn, I began to open up in ways I hadn't before. Our relationship wasn't perfect. We still had our challenges, but we had something we hadn't had before, the willingness to keep trying, no matter what. One evening, several months later, we found ourselves back at the same cafe where we had met that day. It had become a small symbol of our journey, a reminder that things could be rebuilt, even when they seemed lost. As we sat there, laughing and talking like we hadn't in a long time, I realized how far we had come. Emily had changed, and so had I. But the most important change was that we had learned how to love each other again, not just in the good moments, but through the hard ones. And for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. We weren't the same people we had been before all of this, but maybe that was okay. We were stronger now, not because we hadn't fallen, but because we had picked ourselves up together. The past no longer had the power to control us. We were finally free to move forward. And as I looked across the table at Emily, smiling at me with that same warmth I had once fallen in love with, I knew that we had a chance, a real chance, to build something beautiful again, to a new beginning.